Hello. How are you guys doing today?
Hello, everyone.
So, what does it take to be a great RV co pilot? We drive down the road in our RVs, and a lot of times there's two of us. And so, how one can support the other is what we're going to be talking about today. So, stay tuned.
Yeah.
The RV life. We're surrounded with the message that it's a life you have to wait until retirement to have, and a life that only some can afford. And while it might be reality for those who want to believe that's true, we're on a mission to change that mindset and help people to stop wondering and start wandering to create a life they love.
Join us in conversations about how to design your RV life. We're Brian and Owen Street, and this is the RV Living Show.
Yeah, so today we are going to talk about what makes a great RV co-pilot, right?
Yes, that's important.
Yeah, so we were sitting around just talking about traveling and how, some travel days can be more stressful than others and how we can support each other as we do a travel day. And so we came up with these tips today. And of course, we would love your feedback to know what you think really helps you in your RV life, or what special things maybe you have woven into your travel day routine that helps you as either a co-pilot or a driver that will make your travel day easier.
That's right.
So we are going to talk about what makes a great RV co-pilot. So I already know I'm a good one. But Brian pointed out a few things that could make me great. And so that's what we wanted to do today.
This just opened up a lot of conversation.
It did. So I took it very well. Okay. So the first thing that we want to talk about, what makes a great RV co-pilot, is actually learning to drive your RV. If you don't already participate in the driving of your RV, then...
Yeah, learning is important because you never know when you may have to step in and take over.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure that's put on the driver. And if they're not feeling well that day and you have to travel, there's a way that you can be a helper, and that's by learning. And I'm talking to myself here because I've driven the RV, but I don't drive it regularly, and that's my fault. And I should learn to drive it so that I'm more comfortable.
Yeah, even if you get on the interstate and drive a lot of the interstate miles where it's a lot easier driving, that's a big help sometimes, especially if you have to, if the regular driver needs a break.
Well, and I think sometimes that we also, maybe as women, and, don't shoot me here, I'm not being gender specific here, but I think as women, we have relegated the bigger things to our husbands to do. And I know a bigger thing is definitely the RV. Not to mention, I don't want to be responsible for hurting it in any way.
No, we don't want that.
No, but knowing that there's, that you can practice and get better at it is something that I think we all should strive to do. Even or vice versa. I've seen some women rocking driving their RV. We've even seen when people pull up in the campground where the husband gets out of the driver's seat and the woman actually slides in to do the backing in. Like, we need to pull on our strengths and weaknesses, but we also need to strengthen our weaknesses.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So there are a couple RV training things that if you don't already know how to drive your RV, or if you think that maybe it might ruin your marriage to learn from your travel partner, then you might want to consider some RV training. And we can help you with those links. If you're interested, post in the comments and let us know that. And just having that extra training can help you make you more confident and know what you're looking for, because, your markers on your RV are different than your car, of course. Whether you're pulling or whether you're driving it, just having those things that you're looking for and what to look for, I think can make a huge difference.
Yes, well, you drove ours. You did real good. So I'm not
Well,
complaining.
thank you. I just need to do it more. So I'm taking that as a personal challenge this year to drive more. So the second thing that we're going to talk about today is what makes a great co-pilot. And this goes both ways, right? Whether he's driving or whether I'm driving, you need to be a support to the driver. The driving's a big task.
It is, especially in these big rigs. You've got both hands on the wheel. You got to concentrate on the road. You know, it's a job that you're mentally into the whole time you're driving.
Yeah. I know that on the just a little bit that I have driven, it's an all-encompassing task, and you really can't do. I mean, not that you're supposed to be doing other things while you're driving, but we all know that when we get in our cars, it's easier, and it's, you know, you change the radio, you may, you know, navigate on your phone, which you're not supposed to do, or change the GPS, or, you know, you're doing different things when you're driving your car that you just can't do when you're driving your RV.
That's right.
So we want to talk about some tips on being a support to the driver. So the first thing that we determined is that both of us, the co-pilot, needs to also know the destination details.
Yes.
Now, in our relationship, he's the navigator and the driver usually. He's also the one that made the travel plan in the first place. So that means that I'm in the dark about where we're going. So the next thing that we think that is good to do for a co-pilot is to also, besides knowing the destination, is, Brian, you said know the route.
That's very important to know the route. I mean, that's the last thing you don't want to hear your co-pilot ask you is, where are we?
That does happen. Okay.
But it's important to know the route, especially when you're maybe you're not following GPS the way the GPS wants to take you. Maybe there's a better way. And generally, this goes both ways. I have to write down the route, and I normally plan where I want to go. So I need to better job of communicating to her where we're actually going.
Yes, because, and again, I think that's fundamentally almost everything here is the communication aspect of back and forth of even. Let's fully disclose here. Brian is a control freak about where we're going and the travel plans. Okay. He's a complete control freak. So I've just relegated it. It's like, oh, well, here. Well, but I'm not helping him if I don't at least know the route between here and there so that I can help out when I need to. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is how we can make that happen. And so by knowing the route, you also can help with the stops. And so that is something that we use an app for that we have found that's really useful, is for the co-pilot to have access to these apps that will help us figure out our stops. And the first one I'm going to show you on my phone that we really like to use for stops is the iExit app. And it tells you what's on the next exit. You may be familiar with the book, The Next Exit. And I love those books.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very, very handy. Mine happens to be a little out of date. And then we found this app. And we usually have cell phone signal when we're driving down highways and things. So the app works really well, and it shows you what's on the next exit so that you can plan ahead and get off. And this helps figuring out where you need to stop, how to take a break, right?
That's it.
And so sometimes he might need to take a break sooner than we thought to stop. And so I use this app to find that a lot.
Yeah, another thing you've got good at, and it is really big helpful, is being able to search out the stop on Google Maps and look at where we're going. Because if we need to get gas, being that we're a gas motorhome and we're towing, we have to find a gas station that we can get in and out of easily. And it's important to you look ahead, and you can actually kind of physically see the the layout of the gas station, and you kind of determine we can get in and out of there.
Yeah, if we put it on the satellite view and drill down on Google Maps, you can kind of see how you get in and out of the gas station, and that really helps him out on the approach and the different ways. But then the other thing that we started to do is we started to use the Flying J app, and that helps because Flying J has RV lanes. So if you're not a diesel motorhome, and can you get diesel in those RV lanes, or are they only gas?
I'm not sure. I've always
Okay,
liked
well,
gas.
see, we
I think
we used to have a diesel, and so we would always go to the truck stop. And so then when we got the gas one, we of course go to the gas pumps, but the Flying J stops have RV lanes that are separate from the gas pumps. A lot of them, not all of them. We found that out.
Right.
But if they have them, they're really convenient to drive through, get gas. And then usually the propane is right there. So if you need propane, it's a double help. So using that app to locate the ones that have the RV lanes are very, very helpful.
Yeah, it's also helpful to go back to look at it and Google Maps as well, because we have found a Flying J, was it in Texas, that it was almost impossible to get gas at in our motorhome.
Yeah, you almost take for granted that Flying J or Pilot are really easy in and out, and sometimes they're not. So
Yeah.
So the other thing that I help with is with blind spots and changing lanes. Tell them how that works.
Oh, that's real helpful, especially when we're in heavy traffic. We're going through a big city like Atlanta or like Houston, one of these places where we're going to need to stay in the right lane as all these merging roads and things go on. It's a really big help to the driver to help point out that we're in the right lane, stay here, or no, you need to move over one. Because if you're a driver, you're busy watching traffic, you're watching everything around you. It's really kind of hard to look up at those signs and determine where you need to be.
Yeah, and pretty soon you're under the sign and you're like, so did that tell me to stay here or there? And so having another set of eyes is really helpful.
That's really helpful.
He likes that. It makes him happy when I do that. So we're going to do it more and more. The other thing that we talked about knowing the route, we talked about knowing the destination details. And I know what we talked about, that when things fall, so we have a motorhome. So this doesn't apply to people who are in fifth wheels because you don't know what falls in your fifth wheel, right? But if you're driving in a motorhome, another one of my key things that as a co-pilot that I do is if a cabinet comes open or something falls out on the floor, or I can go secure it in light traffic. I don't get up if it's heavy traffic, but in light traffic, and be able to secure some of the things that have either fallen out or got loose or whatever.
Well, that never happens, so we don't have to worry about it.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Not if we did our job right the first time. Right. It wouldn't happen. So, okay. So the third thing that we want to talk about today that makes a great RV co-pilot is to create your own personalized back-end communication system. So we talked before about how communication is really important when you're traveling, knowing where you're going, where you're supposed to be, what road you're on, helping change lanes, all that kind of boils back to communication and awareness, right? So when you get to the campground, though, you aren't done driving, you still have to park it. And if you're not doing a pull through, you have to back in. Right. So tell us what this means to us.
Well, it's important when you're starting to back in, because you want to, especially in campgrounds where there's a lot of trees or things in your way, it's hard to determine if you're going to clear that limb or if you're even backing properly, because these cameras on these motorhomes are good and they're helpful, but they can't always tell you exactly where you need to be.
Well, I know that from my experience of driving, the spatial awareness with the larger RV, whether you're towing or whether you're driving it's way different. And so backing in, not only are you worried about the back end of where you're landing up, but the taller the trees or the branches that are up above that you might hit, or all of those things, it's great to be that set of eyes.
Even the front in tight campgrounds, you have to watch the front of your motorhome just as well as your back.
In the last campground we were in, we actually, in order to leave the campsite, we had to back out of it into a clear space and then turn and get on the road that we pulled in on. We couldn't pull out and around the campground. It wasn't working that way. The roads didn't work that way. So talk about the personalized back-end communication. How should we create that?
That's something that each of you is going to have to decide how you want to communicate. Talking about this beforehand is going to be a big help.
You mean not yelling afterwards?
Not yelling afterwards. Talking it through beforehand and explaining what the driver needs and understanding how to communicate. That's very important because it makes backing in so much easier when you got that extra eyes out there looking at where you're going.
What about the phone's next, but what about hand signals?
Hand signals are important. You should develop your own.
Like, let's show us some that we should do.
Like, you show me which direction I should be taking the motor home.
Right. Or backing up.
Yeah.
Almost like if you've watched them at the airport, just
Keep
going back or turn, or.
The important one is stop.
Stop. Yes. Right. So figuring out what these things mean to you and the driver is really important so that the communication is clear when they're backing up.
And it's also helpful, if even you go to a campground that offers, somebody takes you to your site and will help you back in. It's also good that your co-pilot gets out and helps as well.
Yes.
As an extra set of eyes.
Well, and more RV parks and campgrounds do not offer that service where they take you to your site and help you back in. And even if that person does show up there, their skill set may not be the same communication style. So that's also something else to think about, right. Is that especially if you're a full-timer and you do this all the time, you're a team and just working that out that way. But the other thing is the phone. So tell them how we use the phone.
Yeah, the phone is important because you can turn your phone on. I can actually lay it in my lap, put it on speaker. I can hear everything she is saying, as she talks to me. We can actually communicate very easily that way.
At first we started using walkie-talkies, but then it was like he has to press the button to talk, and that just didn't make any sense anymore. No. So we gave the walkie-talkies to the grandkids, and we used the cell phone.
That's right.
So we just wanted to also offer you guys this week. I know that we've done this for the past couple RV Living shows, but if you need a great way to keep your campground reservations, you can go to, here we go. To make travel planning easier, we want to give you a free printable to make reserving your next campground even easier. Click the link above or below this video to download a free campground reservation log. So there is a link up there. So if you are not already a subscriber to us or have never gotten a campground reservation log, we want you to have one for free, and that will help you in your RV travels. Unless I make an effort to know that. And so that's where our travel planner comes into play. So if you use our travel planner, yay. If you don't and you have another method, then, use that method. But, look at your travel plans before you leave so that as a co-pilot, you're aware of where we're going.
This episode of the RV Living Show is brought to you by the Complete RV Travel Planner, the only travel planner made specifically for the RV lifestyle. Get yours today at rvtravelplanner.com.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week on the same time, same day, Wednesday afternoon, 2:00 Eastern time on YouTube, on Facebook, our page, or on Stop Wandering and Start RVing, our Facebook group. If you haven't joined that, you can join that too.
That's right.
So you guys take care, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the RV Living Show. We hope this episode helps you in creating an RV life you love.
Until next time, we encourage you to stop wandering and start wandering.